Hello, 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 good people. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this from. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Audrey, and if you're a new person on this account, kindly remember to hit that subscribe button. So today, I'll be sharing a very sensitive but interesting topic, and it's about special needs. And according to Google in the context of children at school, special needs implies the aspect of a particular educational requirement resulting from learning difficulties, physical disability, or emotional and behavioral difficulties. Now, in the absorption of children with special needs into mainstream schools. So while I was doing this research about this topic, I came across a very interesting session that was done in Dubai. It's Dubai Expo 2020, where we are moving from redefining people with special needs to people of determination and inclusive for schools to be developed in this context. So without further ado, I would wish to share with you the various and most common disabilities that we have encountered or we encounter on a day-to-day basis. And according to Australian National University, you may have come across many disabilities in your work life, in your daily interaction with different people, at school, at hospital, you know, and the most common examples that appear, first, we have visual impairment in the aspect of sight, and then we have deaf or hard of hearing. And thirdly, we have mental health conditions, which is becoming very rampant nowadays in the 21st century. Fourth, we have intellectual disability, and mostly you encounter these in the context of people who have an issue in comprehending information for a long duration of time. Again, next we have acquired brain injury. Apart from that, we have autism, which is becoming a bit common also, autism spectrum disorder. And lastly, we have physical disability. And just like many effects, there always has to be causes, you know. There are very many common causes for this kind of disabilities. So according to Hesperian Health Guide, I mean, I'm not singling out only this, but these are the most common causes of disabilities across the world. The first one and the most common one is poverty and malnutrition. And poverty being one of the biggest causes of disability across the globe. Next, we have war. In today's war, more civilians than soldiers are killed or disabled. And most of them are women and children. This doesn't single out men. Doesn't mean that men don't encounter these. But in most common cases, civilians, women and children are the most ones who are affected by war. Next, we have nuclear accidents. We've not encountered these recently, but in a couple of years ago, there were so many nuclear bomb cases, and people end up being physically challenged or being disabled. And next, we have poor access to healthcare, just like poverty. If a person is not able to access good health care, they end up with very many complications which could actually affect their way of living. Next, you have chronic illness or illness which is not properly attended to, and if it becomes so severe, you end up being maybe challenged in one way or the other. And then another thing that doesn't look realistic, but it's very common, medicines and injections. Sometimes maybe you are under chronic disease and you end up taking this kind of medication or this kind of injections, and in one way or the other you become, you know, addicted to them, and they end up maybe paralyzing your body or putting you in a state that you end up depending on them. You can't be able to function without this. Something else that people overlook is dangerous work conditions. Probably maybe you're working as a safety engineer, an engineer, or in a construction firm, or even in a school, but you end up not being safe. you know, and safety is very, very, very key. In one way or the other, just something slight could actually put you in a very dangerous state. Again, in relation to dangerous working conditions, we have things to do with accidents. It could be at work, it could be by car, it could be by flight, it could be even sleeping on the floor and you end up breaking your legs. You know, accidents could be caused anywhere. So again, this is also one of the major common causes of disabilities. And then lastly, we have inherited, you know, genetic. We have things like epilepsy, we have visual impairment, we have deaf. These are common things that are transferable from one generation to another generation. Now, with an understanding of the common disabilities and the common causes of disability, it brings me to my topic for today. And I have this question. Before we look at that question, probably I need you to have an interpretation that most of these disabilities bring up the aspect of stereotypes, you know, and society having to look at people differently and looking at kids with this kind of situation differently. So back to my question, do you think special needs education should be introduced as part of the curriculum on a day-to-day basis? Do you think it is very important or very crucial for schools to include special needs education and be put as part of the curriculum on a day-to-day basis? What do you think? So, being a teacher or being an educator, I think, or rather I believe, that special needs education, rather nowadays, these people are referred to as people who are differently abled, you know, apparently referring to them as people with disability or people with special needs tends to be offensive. So we are learning in the 21st century, we are adapting the aspect of referring to them as people who are differently abled. So I believe that it should be made part or subject amidst the normal lessons. You know, apart from teachers who undergo this particular unit, you know, during their undergraduate program or diploma program or healthcare workers, yeah, I feel it is very necessary to make SPED a part of curriculum for students. Not just students, and also teachers, and any other educator in the school system. Why am I asking about this, or why am I bringing this topic on board? Because I believe as students, when they are learners, you know, and this aspect is introduced from kindergarten to middle school, you know, sorry, to primary to middle school, high school, college, even if it's an informal setup, doesn't have to be within a school setup. But when they are learners, it becomes very easy to understand and communicate with people who are differently abled. You know, as a child, let's say from kindergarten, you're introduced into dealing with people who have vision impairment, they have, you know, hearing impairment. You are already familiar with sign language. You're already familiar on how to handle somebody with who is hyperactive. You are already familiar with how to handle somebody who's physically challenged. You know, as you grow up, it becomes very easy for you because at that particular juncture, you are aware of your environment. You're aware on how to deal with this kind of people. It doesn't become like a baggage to you. It doesn't become like a hindrance to anything, you know. And you do not need to look at this person as somebody who's not normal. But when you grow with them and be in the same system with them, it makes you accept them and feel that they are part of you. Again, on the other hand, look at these people who are differently abled. If they are made part of this system, they feel the aspect of inclusiveness. You know, they feel like they've been made part of a journey, they've been made part of a system, they've been made part of a society, and they are not different. Secondly, when these learners grow to be adults, you know, now we are looking at the aspect of growth from being a child to a teenager to an adult, and you end up as a parent, for instance, and you have one of this kind of child. Yeah, maybe they have autism, maybe they have vision impairment, physically challenged. You know, most parents who have not had any basic education on how to handle this kind of kids, it becomes chaotic. You know, there's that pressure whereby you want to make your child fit into the society. You also want to accept your child into the society. And most parents would want to hide their children because they are afraid of the stereotypes that come with it. You know, the bullies that are out here who are always ready to make fun of any kind of disability without understanding that people are different. So I believe if this is made part of the curriculum and these learners grow to be parents and they end up with this kind of children as their kids, it becomes very easy for them, you know, because they're already familiar and aware on how to handle them. They do not need to, you know, run helter-skelter here and there to try and find out ways on how to adapt or fit in. It becomes an easy transition. Again, another thing that I would want to say is the aspect of society is able to accept them easily and interact with them like normal people and not just special. Why am I saying this? Because if you're growing up from kindergarten and you're familiar that we have this kind of people, when you meet them on the street, it doesn't become an issue because you're already familiar. When you talk to somebody and you feel like they did not hear you, you do not have to shout. You don't need to feel offended because you are aware that we have people who have hearing impairment. When, let's say, you meet somebody who's physically challenged, you don't need to stare at them because already you've been put in a system that accommodates them, that makes them a part of us. So I feel if the society is educated from, you know, from the basis of education until when they have grown up, it is an easy transition. It doesn't become a challenge because every person is now aware of what is happening around them. Again, also these people who are differently abled, they will not feel like out of place. You know, they will feel like it's just a normal session like any other because they are going to school with this kind of people and they're interacting with these people. And then lastly, the aspect of guidance and counseling. Why am I saying this is important? Because guidance and counseling applies all across, regardless of the situation you're in. Most of the time we need guidance and counseling because we handle different issues, we encounter different problems, we encounter, you know, different difficulties. So guidance and counseling becomes even much easier because already we are aware, already we are familiarized with what is happening around the vicinity or the neighborhood. And with guidance and counseling, parents are able to accept these. Your brothers and sisters are also able to, a guardian is also able to accept if they have a child who's differently abled. Now, the consequences of not putting these special needs program into the school setup is what we're encountering daily. We encounter bullies, you know, people would want to make fun of every situation. We encounter stigmatization, yeah? Somebody looks at it from the context like, oh, wow, this person can't be able to do this, so he's probably not able. But surprisingly, you realize that this person can be able to actually do better than you actually thought. Again, if failure to do this, we have challenges in the context of, what is this called? Stereotypes. Like people are prejudiced, yeah, before even encountering or interacting with this kind of people or people who are differently abled, we already have stereotypes and we are prejudiced on the way we handle them. But the minute you are aware you've been put as a part of the system, you've been put as a part of the program, it becomes so easy for you to be able to interact, to avoid stereotypes, to avoid, you know, being prejudiced, to avoid being a bully, to avoid making fun or criticizing these people. So what do you think? Do you think this is efficient? Do you think it is much needed in our systems today? I mean, if you feel or you agree or disagree with my point of view, please feel free to leave your comments below over here. I would really, really, really appreciate. Being an educator, I've had to deal with different students, you know, different learners with different abilities. Those ones who are hyper, those ones who are, you know, who are super, 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 super smart, super aggressive, you know, with a lot of energy. Those ones who are, you know, averagely challenged. So it depends. And while I was doing my research, I also reflected in the context of if this was done when I was a young child, I think I would be far much better off on how to handle people who are differently abled. And before I leave, I would love to leave you with this particular thing in mind. You know, just like the fingers in our hands. I keep on using this phrase every time. Just like the fingers in our hands. We have people who are gifted differently. We come in different sizes, different shapes, you know, different colors, different races, religion, beliefs, name them, interests, hobbies, name them. And as a human being, be very keen on how you handle other people, you know. Just because somebody else is of a different race or is able differently from you doesn't make them less of a human being or a weaker person. Yeah? At the end of it all, be keen on how you handle fellow humans. You never know when tomorrow, you just never know where you'll meet them tomorrow. And probably it doesn't just have to be you needing their help, it could be the other way around. They might need your help, but because you mistreated them or you handled them, they will not even have the urge to approach you. So I'm leaving you with this. Try and think about it. Do you think it is important to introduce special needs education on a day-to-day basis? Like it should be made part of the curriculum so that as a society we are able to grow together and in unison. You know, we are looking at diversity. We are looking at people being gifted differently. So why not include it in our day-to-day curriculum? Thank you so much, and I hope you learned something today, and I hope you loved the video. If you're a new person here, again, please remember to hit that subscribe button. And thank you to our viewers. Thank you for the journey. We started with 1 subscriber. Now we are up to about 450 subscribers. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, and I hope to see you next time. I've been your host, Audrey. Bye-bye.